So good evening. Let us discuss 13th July 2015 newspaper. The first one is, for the second time the Kashmiri separatists, they have come down together on the day of the iftar. Now, Kashmir, there are different hardliners over here. So, Mr. Gilani, representing the Hurriyat conference, he is a major hardliner who want a cessation of the Kashmir. And second is the people like Jammu Kashmir Liberation Front. So all these are one or the other way supported the extremism in Kashmir Valley. So they demand for greater autonomy for the Kashmir Valley. So now all these extremist factions, they have come together towards providing for a common ground for the demand from India. So let us see how the progress of these things will happen. So we have to understand this, especially in the circumstances where violence is resurfacing in the Kashmir Valley. We have to see how this particular consolidation among the separatist groups is going to bring in. The next is with regard to the criminal defamation. So Article 19(1)(a), which provides for the freedom of speech and expression, it is said that it is being restricted because of the criminal defamation of under section 499 and 500 of the IPC. So in this context, most of the Western countries, they have done away with the criminal defamation and converted into civil defamation. So many of the political leaders, including Subramanya Swamy, Arvind Kejriwal, Rahul Gandhi, filed a petition in the Supreme Court to do away with the criminal defamation in India. Now, what is the government argument in this? So every citizen has a right to live with dignity and right to good reputation. So under Article 21, life with dignity and good reputation. So the defamation or slandering or using of the wrong choice of the words is ultimately going to decrease this right with the dignity. And second thing is, already there are many exceptions to the section 499 and 500 of Indian Penal Code to provide for a truthful and also objective criticism of an activity in the public good. So in this context, the slander or the wrong choice of the words, it has no social utility or adds no public value with regard to the public discourse and debate. So that is what is the governmental argument is. Now on coming to the comparison to the West, the judicial system is very active in the West, and the civil defamation attracts huge penalties in the West. Unlike this in India, the civil cases takes years together to be adjudicated. So in this context, the better choice is to continue with the criminal defamation. But however, now in this case, the Subramanya Swamy, he complained to the Prime Minister about the law department and especially about the Attorney General. What he said is, the section 66(a) of the IT Act, which was done away by the Supreme Court. Similarly, the Supreme Court also going to do away with this criminal contempt. So which the government is ultimately on going to the taking end. It is due to improper planning by the law department. So that's what he trying to convey to the Prime Minister. So this is about these three articles today. Now, in WUFA, we know that the India-Pakistan have come together after the Pakistan High Commissioner meeting the Hurriyat Conference leaders. India has withdrew from the talks with Pakistan. Now in this context, now the Prime Minister Modi and also the Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif coming together is a positive development. So now in India, always the relationships with Pakistan, they are being defined by passive and aggressive behavior. So in this context, India has a victory that the Kashmir did not resurface in these talks. And added to that, Pakistan agreed to look into the issues of the terrorism, especially the Mumbai attacks, and speed up the process of the investigation on 26/11. Now, the India claimed it as a big victory to its side. Now, the major conclusion here is, especially in the diplomatic relationships, if the politics takes over the reason, ultimately it leads to a deterioration of the relationships. So the excessive movement towards the media or excessive theatrics in the name of narrow political reasons ultimately will affect the long-term benefits in the relations with our neighbors. That is what is the NDA government has to learn. The next is Mr. Rajapaksa is in frame. Now you know in Sri Lanka there is the coalition of Sirisena government where Rajapaksa, who is belonging to or who is mostly a right-wing politician, believed in Sinhalese nationalism, he lost the elections, presidential elections. Now he is contesting to be the prime minister. On the other hand, Ranil Wickremesinghe, the previous prime minister, is also in the foray. Now, if a reconciliation has to occur, there has to be a centralized strong leadership in the country. Wherever this leadership has weakened, where the coalitions try to bring in different parties and different ideologies together, then that phase is majorly compromising and majorly providing for a directionless movement to the society. Again, remember this. In any critical phase of a country, now a centrality of a leadership, especially a strong leadership which can take about a direction for the country is necessary. Mr. Sirisena is one such a phase. But however, in his coalition, the partners, they are leftists, centrists and rightists. Now in this case, can it take forward the reconciliation, especially away from the ethnical and political wounds which are existing in the country is a major question. And especially in these parliamentary elections, the parties are showing their true colors and the politics are redefining the so-called as nationalities over here. So if a reconciliation has to occur between the majority and minority in the country, so the national interest has to take over the narrower political interest in the case of Rajapaksa. Now the next thing is, this is the most important article which has explained the genesis of the Greece crisis. Now the first thing is, there are Troika. So who are this Troika? The European Commission, European Central Bank and IMF. Now they have lended to the Greece. Now how this crisis is started is, in 2001, many of the economies, they tried to enter into the European Union. Now Greece is not an exception. So the Maastricht Treaty, which has led to the expansion of the European Union. So what it has said is this. The Goldman Sachs, etc., their innovative accounting, it has made the Greece to reach to the standards of this European Commission. So now, when Greece entered the Eurozone, the economic situation of the Greece is not as bright and is nowhere close to the required standards of the European Union. Now, from 2001 to 2007, there is a positive phase in the global economies, where the Greece also captured this opportunity and the investments flew from Western countries towards the Greece and also other developing economies. So in that case, the GDP got increased. It has showed a remarkably positive growth. But however, at the same phase, the credit bubble also created in the economy. Now this credit bubble, it means a free credit which was given to the people without valid assets supporting them. It has created a credit bubble. From 2008 onwards, with collapse of Lehman Brothers and also the real estate bubble collapsing in United States of America, a crisis phase was set in. So now investors started moving away from peripheral economies to the center. So the flight of the capital happened from the Greece to the West. Now there is a reverse flow of investments. Now in this process, many of the economies across the world, they led to the expansionary monetary policies. But Greece was unable to be in such a position because it is a part of Eurozone and it cannot lower or devalue its currency because it is a part of the common currency. And they cannot raise the interest rates or decrease the interest rates as per its wish. So now, the previous government has exposed the real situation in the Greece, so which showed that the Greece is not at the liquidity crisis as like many other countries. The Greece is almost at the insolvency state. Now in this context, all this troika has come up and it has provided for aid packages or debt packages to the Greece. It is in return to something called as the reforms which the Greece has to undertake. So the reforms are centered around the austerity. So improving the efficiency of production and decreasing the expenditure and selling of the public assets and privatization, all these things have become the central to the austerity measures in the case of Greece. Now, anywhere the expansion, especially when there is a contraction of the economy, simultaneously austerity measures, they are going to deprive the so-called as social safety nets. And second, they are going to decrease the size of the economy. So in Greece, unemployment has increased. The pensioners are losing their particular value for the savings. So now, finally a leftist government of Alexis Tsipras, so it has come into power, talking against to the austerity measures. Now, the Eurozone countries, they are not very positive to this reaction of the leftist government. Now, in this context, the crisis was settled. Now, the unemployment rate is more than 25%, and among the youth it is around 60%. And in this case, the public debt is 180% of the GDP. So now United States, Italy, all these started talking Greece no way can pay this particular debt. Historically, if you see, the Germany is one country which was reconstructed with the debt relief. So across the world, the support to the Greece is also increasing to provide for the debt relief and restructuring to the Greece. But however, the Eurozone fears that if this debt restructuring and if they bend to the pressure from the Greece and the world all over, ultimately it will lead to a cascading events and many other countries also falls the rain. So that's why they want to impose these restrictions or regime over the Greece. So in this context, what the author says is, such restrictions or Greek exit from the Eurozone will affect the Euro much worse than the Greece itself. So because not just the economic scenario of the Greece, many European countries is no better than this. So this is about this article. And next is connection of the Tibet with the world. There is a Chengdu province in Sichuan province and Tibet. They are connected by Sichuan-Tibet railway project. Now, this Tibet is connected not only with the mainland China through infrastructure, but also it brings Tibet close to Nepal and India border too. So it also increases Tibet's connectivity to the transportation corridor which the China is building to Europe. So the growing linkages between the provinces, it's a new drivers of the growth for the Tibet. But at the same time, if you see in perspective of India, yes, it provides for new economic opportunities and engagement with China. At the same time, coming of infrastructure close to the Indian border, especially close to the Arunachal Pradesh, it poses new security and strategic challenges to India. Don't try to remember different names which are been given over here. Just the Sichuan-Tibet railway project. So that's what is one thing, in development of the infrastructure in Tibet coming close to the borders of India. Now this is a beautiful article. Again, Sampath has come up with is a set of articles. Now development, how it has started. Now post the Second World War scenario, the existing global order got disturbed and many countries became independent. And in this process, to retain the control of the Western capitalism over the third world countries, the Truman Doctrine has come into existence. So the Truman Doctrine, that is East for the rest, West for the rest. The Truman Doctrine, it has three objectives majorly in reaction to the three different scenarios. To find the new markets for the goods of the West, and to provide for dominance in the Cold War era politics, and third is to take up or else a developmental enterprise which makes the East to depend further on the West. So a developmental economics as a discipline developed, and this developmental economics, it tried to provide for problematization of poverty. It means poverty is a new knowledge is generated which sees the poverty as a negative dimension. The poverty definition is mostly defined as an income poverty rather than other forms. So the Truman Doctrine has provided for new impetus to the neo-colonialism. And Escobar, he is an author, Escobar, developmentalist. He wrote a book called Encountering Development. Escobar, Abdul Rahman, and next is we have Robert Chambers. All these are the developmental theorists. So what they said is the development has objectified the human lives, and the developmental economics has reduced the opportunities for advancement. So the poverty is defined in measures of income, and alternative definitions of the poverty in terms of how the people have the control over the politics, to what extent they can be empowered. These alternative definitions started missing. And also the development has contextualized in the Western culture. So this all provided for a West-defined developmental process. In the 67 years of India's developmental process, an alternative vision was missing, and the development has led to displacement, dispossession, and also much worsening of the inequalities in the society. So the author suggests for looking into the development which is closely involved with the culture of the society and development that can be indigenized. And China troubles are not good news for India. Now understand that the Chinese economy is one central economy through which all the Asian economies got integrated. And any impact on the Chinese economy, the ongoing crisis in the stock exchanges in China, it is going to affect all these economies together. So that's why Chinese economies, especially the marginal trading which was introduced in China last year, it is created a bubble. And also added to that, excessive credit given to the people has created a banking bubble over there. So these are posing immediate threats to the Chinese economy. So this expansion, credit expansion. So any collapse of the Chinese economy is a danger sign to the world, which is already going through this Greece crisis. So India-Kyrgyzstan Anti-Terror Pact. So next is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. They can provide for the new platforms for discussion between India and Pakistan. So especially this article has discussed that the China has its own interest in bringing India and Pakistan together. The reason being One Belt, One Road initiative, bringing in the integration of the economies of Eurasia cannot happen without bringing the India and Pakistan together. So the China and Russia can work in this direction to provide for or to realize the potential of this particular thing. So thank you very much. I'm really sorry for uploading the things late and not uploading. For the last week I have gone through some personal tragedy, so I was totally occupied with that, and I'm really sorry, and the process will be continued for you. Thank you very much.